Hi everybody, welcome to a quick video tutorial. It's more of an update is what we're going to do today. We're updating one that we've done from a couple years ago, had good response. And what I'm going to show you how to do is the quick and easy way of taking a rasterized image with compound curves, so not just a circle or a square, but something with a compound curve, and how we're going to add a cut line to that without any expensive rip software or any of that nonsense. So we're going to get right through it. All we're using is Photoshop. We're going to use Illustrator, and we're also going to be using VersaWorks. I'm using VersaWorks because this is what I'm going to use to print onto my printer and cutter. You might be using something different. Maybe you're using a plotter or something like that. That's fine. This is still going to show you how to set up an AI file or an EPS is what we're going to do, and that's going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to jump right into this. I'm going to bring this over into Photoshop and open it up. Now this is what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm making a heat press image. I'm going to print it on my printer on a heat press vinyl, which is just a white background. I want it to cut out this image so I can heat press it. Now the issue is going to be a couple different things. Your image may not look like this. You may have white in the background and it's one big square. If that's the case, and you're going to actually have to go in and remove the white background or whatever to make it a PNG file. That's what this one is. PNG just means, other than a JPEG, which would be a big square image, and everything this is all white. Well, PNG means this is just transparent, and that means it's a little bit easier to work with. So if that's how yours is, you might have a lock symbol over here. Double click on this layer to unlock it. I'll show you. It look just like this. See how this one's locked? We can't get rid of this and make this a cutout pattern because it's a JPEG. All this is not transparent. This is all just one big squared image. So if you needed to change this one, you would have to double click it, and then you can actually go in and you can make adjustments with your eraser tool or whatever and erase whatever you need to do. All right, back to this. Now let's assume that you already have your cutout and this is what you want it to be cut out as. You have your PNG set up. What you're going to do is you should know your rough dimensions of about what you want it to be cut out as. I want mine to be about 2 inches final. So I'm going to set it up as a 3x3 so I have a little bit of wiggle room, and you'll see why we're doing that. I have a 3x3 image. You choose what you want, but it is important that you choose the dimensions and keep it that way. So you can't choose something then try to go back in and crop it and change it, because it's going to have to be the same for Illustrator. So make sure that's a critical step. You choose what you want, but choose it and stick with it, or you're going to have to start over. All right, so I'm going to hit Control A to select it all, dancing ants, Control C to copy that. Now I'm going to hit Control V like Victor. That pasted it. You can see how much bigger it was than my 3x3. That's good. That's a good problem to have. Control T to transform it, and just click and drag this smaller. Now, if yours is getting cattywampus on you and going taller or smaller, just hold down the Shift button. The Shift button will keep it dimensions the same. All right, so here I am. Now I know that I want my cut to go around here, but I don't necessarily want my machine to cut into this little hole or into here or down into all these different grooves, mostly because it's just going to take too much time, and I need to make a lot of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this layer, and I'm going to add a stroke. Now this one happened to already be that color because I've been working on this, but if you needed to add a stroke, you go in here and choose your selector tool, and I'm going to kind of play with this outside border. So I'm going to choose one that I kind of like. It's going to be an easy, nice cut. See, I'm making it nice and round for the blades. Just going to be kind of flow around there easier. There's a couple small holes in there, but that's okay because I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to hit OK. Now we're going to right click and hit Rasterize Layer Style. So now there is no more layer style. This is just the layer. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit B for brush. And I want the brush to not paint in black. I want it to paint in this color. So I'm going to hold down the Alt button. That brings up my picker tool. Choose that blue. And now I'm going to go in here and just fill in all these different areas of where I want it. So that's looking pretty good. Here's one down here. Same thing over here. Okay. Now to scroll in and out, I'm holding the Alt and then I'm using the scroll wheel. So if that's a trick that you don't know, that's how we're doing that. V is your common quick select tool that's going to get you back into here. Okay. So this is what we're looking at, and this is about where I want my cut to go around the outside. There's a couple things we need to think about. If it gets off just a little bit, you might see white around there. I don't want that. So I'm going to set this up so there is no possibility of white showing through around where the blade's cutting. So I'm going to take this layer, and I'm going to duplicate it. So now I have my main color one, and I'm going to just rename this one cut line. And I'm going to turn it off for now. Now on this one, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to choose stroke again. Now obviously this looks pretty silly at this point. This is way too much stroke, but that's okay because that's what's going to be cut around. So now if the blade gets off just a tiny bit, you're not going to see white. It's going to cut around that blue. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and hit Rasterized layer style again. That's fine, no problems there. Now I'm going to double click on this one. Whoops. Let's go ahead and click the eyeball back on so you can see it. Okay, we're going to double click it, and now we're going to tell it that we want a color overlay. And I'm just going to choose black. Black's fine. So here's my color overlay. Now you can see, if I bring down my opacity, our cut line is still going to go where this dark image is. All that we did by adding that stroke is we're guaranteeing that we're not going to have any white show when we go to cut this thing out. So if a blade gets off a tiny bit, we're not going to have any of that showing. That's all we did. So we are now onto that. I'm going to hit Rasterized layer style. Cut line, image. So I'm going to hit Control Shift S to save. And now I'm going to save this at my desktop, I guess. Mask logo. Sure, why not? It's important. We're still at 3x3. We're not overlapping anything. We're still at 3x3. Now what I'm going to do is not move anything. I'm going to turn this one off and this one on. Now I didn't move anything. I hit Control Shift S like Sam to save. And now I'm going to hit Mask Cut Line. Save. Okay. So now we have two different ones that we've saved. And now what we're going to do is open up our Illustrator. Now when we do our Illustrator, we're going to tell it we want, you guessed it, 3x3. We're going to hit Create. Now here we are. I'm going to open up my Layers panel. I held the space bar button so I could drag this around. That kind of works in Photoshop too, as long as you're zoomed in enough. Alright, so we're on layer 1. And now I'm going to hit Control Shift P like Paul. That places items. And it's asking me, where do you want to place it? Alright, well, we'll take our mask logo. And I want to put it right up here where it says intersect, in the top left corner. If you don't get it there, that's fine. Up here, where it says transform, just put 0, 0. Make it that top left corner so you know you're all the way in the corner. So it's 3x3. Now what I'm going to do is go into my layer panel and hit the plus button. Create a new layer. While I'm on that new layer, I'm going to do it again. Control Shift P. Now this time, you guessed it, mask. It says anchor now, that's fine, because we're still at 0, 0. See how we lined it up? Now I've highlighted this one, not the bottom one. I'm on the top one, and I'm going to click Image Trace. Now if this isn't the way yours is set up, that's fine. You can go up here, and you can find those same things in your settings under Window and under Effects. So I'm going to go to Image Trace, and I want it to be a black and white logo. Just like that. Now what I'm going to do is hit Expand, and I hit this little drop down arrow. And you can see, I now have that one and this one. Well, I don't want this one anymore. So it is gone. And just like that, we now have our cut lines. Now you might think that's not a cut line yet, and you're right, it's not. All it is a solid fill that's a vector. This is now a vector compared to a rasterized image, which is still the bottom one. In this vector, I need to make it have no fill and a stroke for our cut line. So under that, we'll go under here. Now you'll notice I have a problem. I do not have my Roland swatches showing through my VersaWorks. So I need to find those. So I'm going to go to Other Library. Now I know where I have them saved, but I'm going to show you just in case you don't have them saved in the same spot. I'm going to this PC. We'll choose Local Program Files 86. Roland VersaWorks. Swatches. Illustrator. I'm just going to choose that one. All right. Now, when I click this, it's going to make the whole thing turn pink. That's not what I want, but that's okay because we will choose nothing. But now that color is available under stroke, and I'll choose that. You can bring it down if you want. Sometimes I bring it down to 0.25 instead of 1, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to show up in your print. So see how we have our cut line now? We now have a rasterized image with a cut line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit File, Save As. I like to save it as an EPS. And I'll put mask patch or whatever. That's fine. Save that on my desktop. Now I go into here and I choose it to high resolution. I don't want any of this stuff. I turn all this off. It just seems to work better for me on my color corrections on my Roland. So now there we have it. When we open up VersaWorks, I'm going to tell it to add something into QA from my desktop. Yeah, where do we name that? Is this it? Nope. Mask patch. That would be it. All right, now you'll see. We are set up. We've got our media width. And I'm going to tell it that I don't want it to be 3 inches anymore. I want it to be 2. So I'm going to adjust that in here. It's now 2 and 2. And I'll print several of these out. Why not? We'll make the spacing 0.25. Center it on the media. High quality. And I'm going to change this to a heat transfer. And I am going to also set mine up. And see if I can show you here. A couple different things. So firstly, see where it says execute pre-feed operation? That's a good idea. What that's going to do is push the vinyl out to the area that it needs, then bring it back to start printing. So it's not pulling on it as it's printing. It's going to help you get a more accurate cut, especially in those fine areas. Then I'm going to change mine. Instead of printing and then cutting, which means the rollers are going to go back and forth over your ink, I'm going to make it cut it first and then print it out. So that's what I'm going to do. And I like to cut the image boundaries just because I can weed that stuff out real quick and make sure it looks good. Okie dokie. You can see our dancing ants. That means we're right around there. I'm going to hit OK. And print. And when you guys come back, I will show you the video of it actually printing.
Alright, let's see how we did. It's pretty good. I'm happy with that, especially considering it's, you know, a very detailed thing. It's 2 inches tall. I think we did it right. And you can see how we were concerned about any white showing. And there you go. There's that extra stroke that we added. There it is. See it? And just like that. We're ready to go to press.